Okay, I'm going to get started this morning by just welcoming everyone. Sawadee Kap, Sawadee Kap. Nice to see all of you guys here this morning. Welcome to everyone online as well. Today is our group learning program where I'm going to be helping you guys to understand the path to enlightenment through the teachings of the Buddha. We're going to do meditation first to help you guys get started with meditation, but then I'm going to move into a talk on the three poisons and transforming the mind away from the three poisons, because these are the high-level pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind, and he offers solutions of how to actually eradicate these from the mind. And this is how the mind actually experiences enlightenment, is by eliminating the pollutions of mind. When these pollutions are eliminated, you'll notice that the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, no longer experiencing any discontent feelings. All the anger and sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, all these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the mind through training of the mind and uprooting these pollutions out of the mind. So this really helps to kind of broaden your understanding of what are the problems in the mind, and it really deepens your understanding as well, and also the solutions that you need in order to fix this. So if you guys would like to start with meditation, that's how I'm going to start, because meditation is an important component of helping you to make your way towards enlightenment. But you wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. So that's why we need to share teachings with you that are going to help you to understand the other wisdom that you need in your journey to enlightenment. The way that we start with meditation is we start with chanting. If you'd like to chant along, we have the chants on the table over there in this cabinet. There's a chanting sheet that's laminated, and you can see the chants there, and you're welcome to chant along if you'd like. There's not only the chants in Pali, which is the historical language of the teachings of the Buddha, but they're in English as well, so that you can see the English translations. If you read the English translations, you're going to notice that there's a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't think the Buddha actually created these chants himself. They were probably created by his students, because a Buddha doesn't go around and teach his students to chant things to him out of respect for him, because that would be arrogance and that would be ego. And an individual who's gotten to enlightenment will have eliminated their ego. They're no longer putting themselves above others and looking down on people. So I suspect that these chants were created by his students, because if you learn from a teacher of how to move from the anger, sadness, and frustration and other discontent feelings to this peace and joy that is the enlightened mind, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of respect and gratitude for that person too. So that's where I think that these chants actually came from. When we're doing these chants, it's helping to ease the mind into meditation and actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. There's no rites or rituals or ceremonies or worship associated with the teachings of the Buddha. So this isn't prayer or anything like that. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory, because everything he taught was oral, so they needed a way to remember the teachings. So every 2 weeks they would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. But today we don't need to do that, because we have books and audiobooks, videos, podcasts, things like this. But we still chant in order to ease the mind into meditation, and you'll actually get more benefit out of the meditation, because you're getting awareness of mind and awareness of breath as you're easing into the meditation. After the chanting, I'm going to come in with some guidance, and you're going to hear me guiding you during the meditation. After the guidance, there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet. We're just all meditating together. Everyone here at the temple and anyone who's joining online will just be meditating. I'm sure you'll hear an occasional sound here or there. This is normal. You're not going to be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. But if you don't have a craving for permanent quietness, when you hear that sound, your mind can reside peaceful and joyful. After that period of time where it's quiet and we're just meditating, then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. Once again, you're welcome to join in on that chanting. And then that's where I'll start today's class and helping you guys to understand the three poisons and how to transform the mind away from these. So in terms of your body positioning for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times during your journey to enlightenment, because you're going to need them. They're useful in certain situations. But oftentimes people are starting in the seated position. So I'll give you some guidance on that to be able to help you. There's no one way to actually sit in meditation. You can find whatever is comfortable for you. That's the right way to sit. But these are some options that you might consider in order to find something that's more comfortable. If you're on the floor, you might sit with a cushion or more under your rear. This will soften your seat. And then you'd like to just lightly cross your legs. By having your legs lightly crossed, you won't impede the circulation. Whereas if they were real tight, it could impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. You could do that as well. It gets the hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. The hands and the arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. You can find whatever's comfortable for you here. There's other options, like putting your palms on your thighs or your knees. Some people like to put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can find whatever's comfortable for you. And anybody who's maybe in a chair or in a sofa or a bench or a wheelchair or something like that, you might decide to sit with your feet either flat on the floor or crossed at the ankles. But you can see I'm in a chair here with my legs crossed, so that's an option too. There's many different options here. And then with your hands and arms, you can just put them wherever you're comfortable. It's helpful if the upper body is erect. By having the sternum up and the shoulders back, it helps to keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you are real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be erect, which keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. It also helps you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to ease us into meditation with chanting, and then I'm going to come back in with some guidance for the meditation. You guys are welcome to join in on the chanting. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Bhutang Mahakavanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusarang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Potang Mahakavanang Abhivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anumutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusarang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone here. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online. Nice to see all of you guys this morning. Welcome to Tung Yu. Today's class is our group learning program where each Sunday we go chapter by chapter in this book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. You can actually get this book for free from our website by downloading it. You can take it and go print it if you'd like. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for our printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon if your country has access to Amazon. Each Sunday we go chapter by chapter and helping you guys to understand the path to enlightenment. This is where the mind can be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, no longer experiencing any discontent feelings. By the time you get to enlightenment, all that anger, sadness, frustration, and other discontent feelings is completely eliminated. And this comes through training of the mind. Not only will you experience the elimination of all these discontent feelings, but the mind will be focused, concentrated, have clarity of mind, and you'll have deep memory as well. Your personal, professional relationships will really be blossoming. They'll be at ease because you won't have bitterness and harshness and hostility in your relationships any longer. You won't even be in a bad mood. That condition of the bad mood is happening because of these three poisons, these three unwholesome roots, or these three fetters that are these three fires that are plaguing the mind and keeping it in the unenlightened state. When the Buddha discovered what was going on in the unenlightened mind and then discovered the tools and techniques of how to eliminate it, he referred to these as the 10 fetters. These are these 10 individual pollutions of mind, these taints, these defilements that need to be eradicated in order to experience the peace and the joy, which is the enlightened mental state. But when he talks about it from a higher level, he talks about it as these three poisons of craving, anger, and ignorance. What you're doing on this journey to enlightenment is you're transforming your mind away from those three poisons. uprooting them out of the mind, and now bringing in the wholesome qualities of generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. So what I'm going to do with you today is share with you what these three poisons are, helping you to understand what they are, what the symptoms of them are, and then how to actually eliminate them from the mind. Because when I speak with you about these three poisons, you'll be able to relate what I'm sharing to your direct experiences in life, and you'll be able to confirm that your mind indeed has these three poisons. So when I'm sharing with you, it's important that you don't believe what I'm sharing. The teachings of the Buddha aren't based in belief. Whether it's books that you read, whether it's classes that you take, no matter what it is, if you believe something, you're just believing it, meaning you don't know whether it's true or false. Either somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. And belief won't lead to enlightenment. So the teachings of the Buddha aren't about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. You're cultivating wisdom through learning, investigating, and examining teachings, through reflecting on them to independently verify them, and then through practicing them, integrating certain teachings into your life, certain tools and techniques to uproot these pollutions out of the mind. So as I'm sharing with you today, you can relate what it is that I'm sharing to your direct experiences, because I'll be describing exactly what you experience on a day-to-day basis because of these three poisons that are in your mind. And you'll be able to see the truth that yes, indeed, your mind has these. And then you can learn the solutions of how to fix them. The Buddha shares a core central teaching called the Eightfold Path. This is the path to enlightenment. You would need to learn this inside and out, backwards and forwards, in order to be able to make your way to enlightenment. And that's what's going to help you to uproot all the pollutions out of the mind. But when we talk about these pollutions from a high level, the craving, anger, and ignorance, there are specific teachings and tools and techniques that are really targeting these particular pollutions, but you still need to learn the Eightfold Path in order to be able to get to enlightenment. So what I'm sharing with you today is really broadening your understanding of what's going on in the mind, and then it's going to deepen it so that you can see going in the exact teachings from the Eightfold Path that are going to target specific aspects of the mind. But you really need the Eightfold Path in its entirety in order to be able to really get to enlightenment. So as we go today, you guys are welcome to ask any and all questions that you like, whether you're here, whether you're online. If you would like to ask questions, we have microphones here in the white bowl in front of the camera. You can just get a microphone, or one can be passed to you, and you press the gray button. You'll see the lights come on, and you just wait a second or so and put it up to your chin. We'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And for those of you guys online, you can ask your questions by putting that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions by unmuting your microphone. And these microphones here at the temple, you can just keep them with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphones around. Also, for those of you guys that it's your first time here, there's a bathroom in the back of the room. There's actually two bathrooms now in the back of the room, the very last two doors. You're welcome to use those at any time. There's bathrooms outside the classroom. If you go out to the parking lot, there's signs that'll take you around to the main temple bathrooms. And we even have snacks and refreshments and things like that that's provided by our students that you're welcome to help yourself to over there as well. So these three poisons, let's just talk about what they actually are. They're referred to as the three poisons, the three unwholesome roots, or the three fires. They're also known as defilements or pollutions of mind. This is a high-level description of what's plaguing the unenlightened mind and what's keeping it in this unenlightened state, where you keep experiencing the anger and sadness and frustration over and over and over again. Stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, all these feelings and others are being experienced because of these three poisons. If it wasn't for these three poisons, these three unwholesome roots, or these three fires, these defilements and pollutions, you wouldn't be experiencing these feelings. It explains how the unenlightened mind makes decisions through these, and then you'll experience unwholesome results because of it. We refer to these results as karma. You might have heard the word karma being used. The word karma is from the Sanskrit language, where people who study the original teachings of the Buddha might use the word karma, because the original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language. So I use the word karma. If this translated to just one English word, I would use that because it'd be easier for everyone to understand it. But this word karma doesn't translate to just one English word. So I still need to use the Pali version of it. What it means is cause and effect, or action and result. It's the results of your decisions. It's nothing mystical or magical. It's not a black cloud that's following you around. It's not about punishments and rewards. It's not about who's to blame and who's at fault. And there's no being who's overseeing this, controlling who experiences what. Instead, there are certain decisions that you make in life, and when you make those decisions wisely, you're going to experience wholesome results, or wholesome karma. And when you make decisions unwisely, you're going to experience unwholesome results, or unwholesome karma. So everything you experience is a result of decisions that you make. Sometimes you might think that it's good luck or bad luck, or destiny or fate, or maybe there's some being who's overseeing something and controlling what you experience on a day-to-day life. Or maybe you think it's because of other people that you experience the things that you experience in your day-to-day life. If you resign yourself to this type of thinking, you can't change anything about your life, because it's good luck or bad luck, or it's destiny or fate, or there's some being who's controlling what you experience, or it's everybody else that's controlling what you experience. In this situation, you can't change anything about your life. You're locked in and you're a robot. And you understand that that's not true, because if you look at your day-to-day life, you can see whatever you're experiencing is coming from your decisions. Ask yourself, who chose to sit where you're sitting right now? Who chose the clothing that you're wearing? Who chose the hairstyle? Who chose the friends and the people that you are spending time around? Who chose the place where you work or live, or things like this? These are all choices that you're making. So when we make choices wisely, we will experience wholesome karma. And we make decisions unwisely, we will experience unwholesome karma. And with these three poisons, or these three pollutions, or these three fires in the mind, you're going to tend to make decisions through those, and it's going to produce unwholesome results, or unwholesome karma. Whenever you're making decisions through craving, anger, and ignorance, it's going to produce unwholesome results. And you're going to understand that as you see me dive into this and explain it to you in more detail. So this provides a clear description for you of the problems in the unenlightened mind. The antidotes, or how to solve this, or the remedies that you can implement in order to eliminate and eradicate these pollutions, they're referred to as the three wholesome roots. So you can eradicate this. These poisons in the mind are not permanent. These pollutions are not permanent. You can uproot them and eliminate them from the mind, getting to the point where the mind's just always peaceful and always joyful. And you'll experience all those other qualities that I mentioned about the enlightened mind. But as long as these pollutions are in there, you're going to be hindered in your certain situations. This is why you might have bitterness and harshness and hostility in certain situations. It's because of these three poisons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain these from a high level, all three of them, and then I'm going to go in one by one and explain them in more detail, and I'm going to talk about the solutions. But before we talk about them individually, let me first give you the bigger picture so you can see all three of them from kind of a high level and introductory view. So we refer to these as craving, anger, and ignorance. Some people refer to it as greed, hatred, and delusion. And there's other ways you'll hear people refer to them as well. What craving or desire, attachment, or these wants and expectations, what this is the mind's longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of its affection, thinking that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide lasting satisfaction. It's like the mind has an unquenchable thirst. The mind thinks, if I can just get what I want, everything will be perfect. And when you're craving, when you're desiring, when you're longing, yearning, and you're chasing after things, if you get what you want, you'll get pleasant feelings. You'll get happy, excited, elated, thrill, euphoria, things like this, because the mind's getting what it wants, what it's craving, what it's desiring. And then when the mind's not getting what it wants or expects, it's going to experience painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, and things like this. And this is all because of its cravings, desires, attachments. The mind is craving permanence, wanting things to be a certain way. And now when the mind gets what it wants, it gets happy or it gets those pleasant feelings. But when it doesn't get what it wants, it gets those painful feelings. And when those painful feelings are arising, one of the things that might arise in your mind is this anger, this hatred, this ill will, and all the lesser versions like frustration, irritation, annoyance. All of these things can be arising in the mind. And when that's arising, the mind will typically attribute this to something external. You'll think that it's your mom or dad that's causing this, or your brothers or sisters, or your life partner, or your children, or your coworkers, or your friends, or other people like this. You'll think maybe it's the situation that's causing this. And when you think it's something external that's causing these feelings, you'll tend to push them away. You'll push the person away, or you'll push the situation away. This is called aversion, where the mind thinks, if I can just get rid of this person, or if I can get rid of this situation and push it away, this will solve the problem. But it doesn't solve the problem, because it's the craving in your own mind that's causing these feelings. Or the second thing you might do is you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people. Through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. This is where you become unskillful, hostile, and bitter and harsh. And now you might damage a relationship in this situation. Someone might choose to leave out of your life because of this, or it puts strain on the relationship because of the bitterness and the harshness that's coming out. Or the third thing you might do, or you might put your expectations on people, trying to control people and get people to do things your way. Because the mind thinks, if I can just get my cravings fulfilled, everything will be perfect. And it thinks the way to get what you want is to either push people away, and now you're getting what you want, or to be bitter, harsh, and hostile, almost like an animal growling and roaring at another being, trying to fear this being to do things your way. The mind's trying to get its cravings fulfilled. Or by putting your expectations on someone and controlling them to do things your way, the mind thinks, if I can just get my cravings fulfilled, everything will be perfect. But this doesn't actually solve the problem, because you can't get what you want all the time, because you live in an impermanent world. You can't get 8 billion beings to do things your way. It's just physically impossible. So as long as there's craving in the mind, in some cases you're going to get what you want, and in other cases you're not going to get what you want. And that anger is arising, and now the mind's becoming unskillful. And where all this is coming from is the third poison, the ignorance, or what I like to refer to as the unknowing of true reality. This word ignorance is kind of like a derogatory word nowadays, and people are translating what the Buddha taught into that. But we know that a Buddha, an enlightened being, wouldn't talk in a derogatory and diminishing and degrading way. So a better way to think about this third poison is like the unknowing of true reality, misunderstanding, confusion, a lack of wisdom. The mind lacks wisdom in the unenlightened state. It doesn't understand the natural laws of existence. It doesn't understand how the world around you is functioning. So essentially the mind is living in a world that it doesn't understand. So it struggles and has difficulties. It doesn't understand these natural laws, so it keeps making the same unwise decisions over and over and over again because of its lack of wisdom. So while we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, it's really because of the ignorance or the unknowing of true reality that craving and anger continues to exist in the mind. If it wasn't for the lack of wisdom, then you would have already eradicated the craving and anger, and your mind would be completely peaceful and completely joyful. But because of the lack of wisdom of what's truly happening within your own mind, the mind continues to experience craving and anger over and over and over and over again. So this is why you can't believe the teachings of the Buddha, because belief isn't going to fix the ignorance, because the mind still doesn't know what's true or false. But when you can get to wisdom, that's what's going to eradicate the unknowing of true reality, or the ignorance. And now you can eradicate craving and anger. And that's why you need to deeply penetrate into the teachings to independently verify them. So this is the 3 poisons, or the 3 unwholesome roots, or the 3 fires from a high level. But now we're going to go into each one of them in detail. I'll explain them in more detail, and I'm really going to focus on the solutions here. And then I'm going to open up to questions about each one so that you guys can ask me any questions that you like. So with craving, desire, attachment, the mind is craving this permanence, wanting things to be permanent, but yet you live in an impermanent world. When I've shared this with you, you can actually think about direct examples from your own life to independently verify this, because the learning in the understanding of examining and investigating the teachings is to understand craving, desire, attachment, what it is, that the mind's longing, yearning, it has an unquenchable thirst, it's craving permanence. But now you need to go into reflection to verify whether that's true or false. And you can look at different examples from your life where you can think back to a time where you've had a boyfriend or girlfriend, where you guys first got together. You were maybe very happy, very excited because the mind was getting what it wanted. You were getting this affection. You were getting this attention from somebody. Somebody was interested in your life. And now you got very excited about this. You guys were going to the park. Maybe you're having conversations. You're going to the movies. You're having dinner together. Maybe you're having intimate contact with each other. Wow, so much pleasure involved at the beginning of this relationship. But over time, your cravings and wants and expectations grew, and you wanted this person to be a certain way. And they couldn't do that for you all the time. They couldn't permanently meet what your cravings were, what your expectations were. And the same thing on their side. They probably had expectations of you where they wanted and expected you to be a certain way. And you couldn't be that way all the time. You couldn't meet their expectations permanently. It's humanly impossible to do that. And now you guys might have broke up. When you guys broke up, the mind was maybe missing this person, or you felt lonely or bored, or maybe you were angry or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. So now in this situation, what's really happening is not that the love is causing these painful feelings. It's not because you cared about this person, because love and care is just a genuine interest in seeing this being be well. That doesn't cause anger and sadness. What's causing the frustration and the agitation and the annoyance is the mind is craving. It's craving permanence. It's longing, yearning. It's wanting this relationship to be permanent. And as long as you guys were together, there was a certain level of satisfaction that you had. And then when you guys broke up, the mind was experiencing impermanence, meaning change. The mind does not like change. So one of the ways to say that the mind is craving permanence is to say that it does not like impermanence. It doesn't like change. So when you guys broke up, the mind was angry or frustrated or agitated or lonely or bored because the mind was holding on and clinging and wanting this relationship to be permanent. You can see the same thing with grandma or grandpa or mom or dad or brothers or sisters, children, life partners. If you've had people that have died in your life, when you were grieving and you were sad and sorrowful, you're not a bad person. You haven't done anything wrong. It's just that the mind was craving permanence. If grandma and grandpa are alive, you're happy. You're getting what you want. Yay, they're alive. But then when they die, the mind is experiencing this impermanence. It doesn't like this. It was craving permanence. It didn't realize that grandma and grandpa were born. So that means that they had to die. Every single one of us are going to have to die. But as long as we crave permanence, when we experience this impermanence due to our lack of wisdom of the natural laws, we want this person to be permanent. And now when they die, we experience the grief and the sorrow because the mind's not getting what it wants. That craving, that desire, that want and expectation is not being fulfilled. And you can see it in many other situations in your life. Say you got a brand new car. You saved up for this car your whole life maybe, or maybe for 5 years or 10 years, and now you purchase it. You drive it to the store, you go inside, you come outside and you see a scratch on your car. It's not the scratch or the person who scratched your car that's causing the anger or frustration in this situation. It's the mind craving permanence, wanting this car to look permanently beautiful when it's just not possible. It'd be wonderful if nobody ever scratched our car, but that's not the world that we live in. We live in an impermanent world. So this car is going to get scratched, or the paint's going to fade, or the upholstery is going to get ripped in the car. And if our mind is craving permanence in these situations, then we will struggle and have difficulties. And part of that is the discontentedness that's in the mind. So you can take a situation that has recently occurred in your life to independently verify this, because these are examples that I'm using that you may be able to relate to, but you need to be able to bring it into your own life to be able to see the truth for yourself. Take a recent situation, maybe this morning or yesterday or last week, where you were angry, you were frustrated, you were agitated or annoyed. You can look at that and determine what was the cravings, desires, attachments that you had. At that time, you might have been blaming somebody else, because that's what the unenlightened mind typically does. We look for someone else to blame, because it couldn't be you that's causing your own anger. The mind doesn't think about that. That's the lack of wisdom that the mind has, because with the mind's ego, you'll think I'm perfect. Everybody else is the problem. It's not me. It's everyone else that's the problem, right? But now with these fresh eyes, try to independently verify what I'm sharing with you, that it's craving, desire, attachment, the mind wanting and longing, yearning. There was something in that situation that if you would have got it, you would have been happy. And since you didn't get it, the mind got angry or frustrated or annoyed or agitated or some other discontent feeling. You should be able to independently verify this for yourself. And where you're having difficulties doing that, you can let me know through asking questions, and I'll be able to help you to see it. Because sometimes students have challenges to be able to see it clearly themselves. Because what I'm sharing with you is that your own mind is causing these feelings. Your mind is causing the anger and the sadness and frustration. And when you're able to see this, you can actually have a real breakthrough, because now when you understand what the actual problem is and the cause of that problem, then you can understand the elimination of it, and you can understand the path forward of how to actually fix it. But if you continue to be stuck in this belief that other people are causing these discontent feelings, if you continue to hold on to this lack of wisdom, this unknowing of true reality, then you'll go out and try to change other people. You might push people away. You might be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or you might put your expectations on people, and you'll just stay stuck in this continuous cycle of experiencing anger and frustration over and over again. But when you understand what the problem is, which is all those discontent feelings, and you understand the cause of that is craving, desire, attachment, then you can understand the elimination is to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. And then there's a path for you to be able to fix this and train your mind to no longer experience these discontent feelings. And out of this path, there's two things that are really targeting craving, desire, attachment. Where you need the entire path to enlightenment, the eightfold path, to be able to fully transform your mind, there's two things that are targeting it. It's the breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity. These are the two aspects of the training that's really honing in and putting it under a microscope and really training it. But you would need other things too that are described in the Eightfold Path. You wouldn't be able to just do breathing mindfulness meditation and practice generosity to eliminate your cravings, desires, attachments. There's other things as well. This breathing mindfulness meditation that we did this morning, this is training your mind to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. You're eliminating that unwholesome quality. You're also cultivating mindfulness, or awareness of mind, and you're cultivating concentration. These are the two wholesome qualities that you're cultivating during your meditation, is the mindfulness or awareness of mind and the concentration, the focus, the clarity. Because now when you have awareness of your mind, when you see it longing, yearning, and pulling towards something in your day-to-day life, you can cut it off and let it go. If you've been training your mind in breathing mindfulness meditation on a regular, ongoing basis, you can be in meditation 2 or 3 times a day, building up to 30 minutes or more. And that may sound like a lot to you right now, but there's probably unbeneficial things in your life that you could clear out. And when you clear those things out, you'll notice that you'll be able to practice meditation, and you'll have time to be able to do that. So if your mind is focused on the breath, and it moves off the breath, and you cut that off and let it go in your meditation. This is like going to the gym and exercising the mind. That when you go to the gym and you exercise your muscles, then when your friend's like, hey, can you help me move this sofa? You're like, sure, no problem, I can help you, right? So if you go to the gym and exercise your mind, which is what you're doing in meditation, now 2 or 3 times a day, you're training your mind to let go, let go, let go. Because if you think back to that boyfriend or girlfriend, after you guys broke up, you were holding on and you were angry and you were frustrated. But at some point, you were like, you know what? If he wants to be with another person, so be it. And you let go. And then your peace came back. Or if she would like to move to another part of the world, so be it. And you let go. And when you let go, that's where your peace and your joy came in. But the unenlightened mind doesn't know how to let go. That's the craving. That's the clinging. It's craving permanence. So this meditation isn't designed to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes people think that's the case because of the guidance and the instructions of the meditation. The meditation is designed to train your mind to let go, so that in day-to-day life, when something's happening and you're noticing the discontent feelings arising, you can cut it off and let it go. Right? So in meditation, you're training your mind to cut off anything and everything that comes up, because you're building those qualities of mindfulness and concentration and the ability to easily let go. But then in day-to-day life, whenever unwholesome things are coming up in the mind, that's what you're cutting off and letting go. If you have a wholesome thought in day-to-day life, like maybe you'd like to take your friend out to lunch today, or maybe you'd like to call your mom and check in on her and see how she's doing. No need to cut that off. You don't have to cut that off in day-to-day life. You're not causing any harm there. But if you're noticing you want to punch your boss in the face, cut that off, right? Because that's going to cause you problems in your day-to-day life. Don't act on that. Cut that off and let it go. And over time, if you cut these things off more and more, eventually they won't arise, right? So when you see anger starting to arise, it's going to start out as a bodily sensation. And when you're noticing that bodily sensation, like the tightening in the chest, tightening in the throat, tingling in the body, heat in the face, pressure in the skull, when you're noticing that, cut that off. Let it go. Don't let it move to the next part, which is it's going to become a feeling. You would like to cut it off before it becomes a conditioned feeling. Because once the mind has that conditioned feeling, it's a lot harder to get rid of it. But if you can notice it as a bodily sensation where this is that early warning system alerting you that you're about to get angry or frustrated, you can say, nope, I'm not going to let you form that conditioned feeling. You're not suppressing your feelings here. You're actually cutting it off before it actually becomes a feeling. So you can accomplish that through training your mind in breathing mindfulness meditation, so that now in day-to-day life, your mind will be more trained and have more ability to be able to cut that off and let it go. But you need to accumulate the benefits of this over time. You can't just meditate once or 1 week or 1 month and you're going to be able to execute this perfectly, because some of these cravings are deeply rooted in the mind. While we talk about craving, desire, attachment, and wants and expectations, there's really a whole spectrum of these. There's a lighter one, like you would like a bag of M&Ms and you go into 7-Eleven and they don't have it and you feel this little bit of irritation coming up. You can cut that off, right? Couple seconds, boom, it's gone, right? But if your mom is in a major car accident and she's being rushed to the hospital and you get this news, maybe you're really attached to your mom, you're not going to be able to just cut that off easily because you haven't done enough work to accumulate and mature the mind to the point where you can let it go easily. So you're going to need to gradually train the mind over a consistent long-term period. This is gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. Oftentimes people think the Buddha sat under a tree, he meditated, and instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't true. You can see this in the words of the Buddha, that he didn't say that. He said that his enlightenment was gradual, that he didn't attain enlightenment all at once. And you can see this in your own life because anything you've ever done has been this way, whether it's learning how to speak a certain language or whether it's a certain job or a skill or ability at work. It's been gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that's led to that. So you're going to need to do the same thing with your meditation and developing your life practice. That's the name of this book, Developing a Life Practice, right? Because it's going to take time to gradually develop the mind. So in addition to the breathing mindfulness meditation, to be able to accomplish what I'm sharing, which is training the mind to let go, you're also practicing generosity to be able to train your mind to let go. What generosity is where you practice the giving and sharing of more than is strictly required in any given situation, such as your time, effort, energy, or resources, without any expectation of anything in return. If you have an expectation of something, it's not pure generosity. So, buying someone lunch is generosity, or helping your neighbor pick up trash out of their yard. Maybe you come out from your home and you're on your way to work and you see your neighbor's trash can, went all over the yard. Maybe you take some time to help them pick that up. That's generosity. But you need to do it without any expectation of anything in return. Because if you're walking into a store and you see someone's behind you and you hold the door for them and they walk through and they don't say thank you, if you're standing there with an expectation that they will say thank you, you'll be frustrated when they don't say thank you, right? Because not everyone who walks through this door is going to say thank you because of impermanence. Some people's mind are maybe caught up in thinking about what it is that they're going to get from this store. They don't even notice that you're standing there holding the door for them. So if you have an expectation of why you're doing something, even an expectation for a thank you, you're going to get discontent, because in some situations you're going to get what they want, what your mind's wanting. In other situations you're not. So in order to train your mind to let go and to not have craving, desire, attachment, you're going to need to practice generosity without any expectation of anything in return. Because with craving in the mind, it'll become selfish. The mind will want things to be self-satisfying, that the mind thinks, if I spend 3 hours doing this, I want this in return. Or if I spend 3 days doing this, I want this in return. So you would like to get to the point where you're willing to practice generosity and you don't want anything in return. You're doing it just to enhance the quality of your mind, realizing that it's training your mind to let go, to let go, to let go. Okay, so this is craving, desire, attachment, and the two things that are targeting it. But you're going to need the entire Eightfold Path to really help you here. And I teach this at different times. You can attend any of the live classes and courses and retreats, and I teach this thoroughly inside and out. It's also in the books, the audio books. It's been recorded many times on our podcasts. And on our YouTube channel. You can learn this Eightfold Path, and this is what's going to integrate into it. You're going to see as part of the Eightfold Path, this is part of that. So I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have any questions on craving, desire, attachment, this longing, yearning, forming your inner feelings based on whether you get what you want or if you don't get what you want. So here you guys can use the mics if you have questions, and online you can use Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, or in Zoom you can electronically raise your hand and ask any and all questions that you like by unmuting your microphone. Looks like Hans is making his way up for some microphones. You can feel free to take a couple back with you too, Hans, if you like. There might be some more people that have questions. That was a long walk all the way up here.
So now you can hear me. My question is, isn't it like a natural state that beyond being in this mind, in this state of having craving, greed, when it is not there, beyond our natural state, isn't that bliss? And the moment we achieve one of our cravings, isn't that when we just for a brief moment, we connect with this bliss because there's no more desire, there's no more craving for this moment until another thinking comes in. Can we say that, or could you elaborate about that?
Sure. What you're experiencing in that situation is a conditioned feeling that based on some condition, you're going to experience pleasant feelings. But these pleasant feelings are temporary. They arise, they change, and they fade away. So they're ultimately dissatisfying and unsatisfactory because they're not fulfilling permanently, where the enlightened mental state is a permanent mental state that you can experience for the rest of your life, that you'll never experience discontent feelings ever again. So if someone looks outside and it's sunny outside, they'll get really happy and really excited. They'll go take a shower, they'll come out and they'll see it's raining, and now they'll be sad or frustrated or agitated or annoyed. So that happiness was ultimately part of the problem because it was conditional happiness. It was based on some condition. So essentially, as you age and your mind takes on more and more wants and expectations, it's like, if my mom and dad do this, if my boss does this, if the weather is this, if my bank account is this, if my friends and family do this, then I will be happy, right? So you have all this conditionality. And this is why people oftentimes get old and grumpy, but you don't have to be old and grumpy, as you know, right? You can be old and cheerful. But if you have a lot of wants and expectations, it's like you're setting yourself up. You're sabotaging the mind, only being able to be happy if all of these things are true. So this is called conditional happiness. And the amount of happiness that you can have becomes less and less and less and less. But if you get rid of all of this, if you get rid of the basing your inner feelings on whether you get something or not, you can just always be happy, where you have unconditional happiness, where the mind is just always happy, where you wake up, you're already happy and joyful. And this is a permanent mental state. So if you see that it's sunny outside, outside, you were already happy before you saw it was sunny. And then when you go take a shower and you come out and it's raining, okay, it's raining. It's impermanent. I'll just stay home and read a book. Maybe I'll go to the mall. Maybe I'll go to the movies. Maybe I'll invite friends over for food. We'll make them some food. But you won't get sad or angry or frustrated. So as long as you allow your mind to keep getting conditional happiness, you'll never get to the permanent happiness or the permanent joy. So you need to be willing to let go of this temporary pleasure in order to get to the permanent pleasantness, where your mind is beyond the conditionality of pleasure and pain. Any other questions you guys have? Looks like Steve has a question.
Hello?
Oh, yeah.
Here.
Okay, hello.
My question is, are all the cravings bad necessarily? Because oftentimes in life, cravings or desire are motivations to achieve things. And how should one balance the motivations and also accepting the results, or realizing the state that the teaching is aiming for?
Sure. I don't think of it as bad, but it's unwise to have any craving, desire, attachment. There's no such thing as a wholesome craving, desire, attachment. Right now in the unenlightened state, you might be motivated by your cravings, desires, attachments. But now when you get those fulfilled, like certain goals that you might be thinking is an actual goal, you might get happy when you get it. But when you don't get it, you'll be angry or frustrated. So that's not an actual true goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment. The mind's chasing after it, and it's only making its decisions to be motivated based on what you want and what you're chasing after. But then the other side of that the mind can oftentimes see is the mind swings all the way to the other side, and now the mind's dull and lethargic and complacent, and it doesn't feel motivated or encouraged at all. But there's this middle way that the Buddha taught, where you can pursue things as a true goal, a true objective, or a true interest, where you are motivated and enthused and encouraged to do something, but you're doing it through wise decision making rather than based on your cravings. Because if you chase something as a craving, that craving will eventually burn out, and now you'll be unmotivated to do that particular thing. So if you have a craving, for example, like I did early in my life, craving for money, I decided to go learn IT and computers and be a business person. And I went in that direction, and I was craving all those things. And yeah, I got the money. And when I got the money, it wasn't interesting anymore. I wasn't interested in doing that anymore because I was just the money that I was interested in. And then all the money goes away, right? So I was happy as long as that was there. And then when it was gone, then there was sadness that came into the mind. And the mind was motivated for that. But more and more, you can bring your mind to the middle where you're pursuing a true goal, a true objective, or a true interest. Right now, people, when they talk about goals, it might actually be a craving, desire, attachment that's masquerading as a goal. If an individual is forming their inner feelings based on whether they accomplish this goal or not, that's not actually a true goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment. The mind is forming its inner feelings on whether you accomplish this thing or not. A true goal is you work your way towards this with wise decision making. And if you accomplish it, fine. And if you don't accomplish it, that's fine too. So maybe if you're 80% of the way towards your goal, you look at it, you're like, I haven't quite got to my goal yet. And now you look at it, you're like, maybe I can extend my timeline, give myself more time here. Maybe I'll be able to get my goal that way. Or maybe I'll add resources. Maybe I'll add some more resources to this goal, and that'll help me accomplish it. Or you know what? Maybe 80% is all I really need. I don't really need to go to the 100%. And now you can just be completely peaceful and joyful at the 80%. That's a true goal, because you're not forming your feelings of happiness or sadness based on whether you accomplish this thing or not. So you don't need a craving in order to be motivated. That's what the unenlightened mind is doing, but that's part of the problem. If you're just chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing things, which all unenlightened minds do, and you can only feel good about what you're experiencing, and you can only be motivated if you have this craving, then ultimately you're setting yourself up to be sabotaged by the discontentedness, because some cases you're going to get what you want and some cases you're not. And then when the mind's not chasing, then it's going to swing all the way to this other side where you're dull and lethargic and exhausted and tired because the mind was out there chasing things. There's this middle way where you can gradually pursue things through wise decision making or discernment. And that's what the mind needs to learn how to do, because it doesn't know how to do that in the unenlightened state.
And to follow up, how does one find the true goal?
This is where you need to train your mind to eliminate craving, desire, attachment, and understanding what craving, desire, attachment is. That is the mind longing, yearning, and pulling towards something, forming your inner feeling based on that. And now you need to learn how to make your decisions without that involved. And that's the breathing mindfulness meditation, generosity, that's going to train your mind to knock down your cravings. But it's the entire full eightfold path that's going to train your mind to knock down your craving, to be able to work towards something as a goal, objective, or interest. So for example, I have a goal for these teachings to reach the entire world. I would like to share these teachings with everybody and anybody who's interested in learning them. But I don't have a craving or a desire. I don't have a longing or yearning for it. So if I come here and there's, 40, 50, 60 people here, great, that's wonderful. But if I come here and there's one person here, that's fine too. Or if there's nobody here, because when I first started teaching here, people didn't know I was teaching. So there were days where I would show up and there was nobody here. And I was just as peaceful and just as joyful when there was nobody here as when there's, maybe 60, 80, or 100 people here. So you need to learn how to not form your feelings based on these things. So I have the goal to share these teachings with countless people, but I know that not everybody's going to learn these teachings in my lifetime, but I would like to be able to share these teachings with as many people as possible. But I just do that as a goal, objective, or interest, and I don't form my feelings on whether there's one person here or 100 people here, or whether somebody's understanding the teachings or interested in the teachings. As you guys might see, people will get up and leave during the talk. Okay, that's their choice. I don't form my feelings based on that. So you can find these goals by choosing to not have craving, desire, attachment. When you knock down these pollutions out of your mind, then you'll be able to see more and more what is it that you're truly interested in doing in this world. Where right now, if the mind has all these selfish desires, where it's pursuing those things, that's what your mind's chasing. And then you'll end up acquiring those things in some cases and be happy. Some cases you won't get them and you'll be sad or frustrated. In other cases, your craving will burn out and you'll stop pursuing that. So if you find yourself bouncing around to many different things in life, where you'll try something for a period of time and then you just stop and you completely change and go do something else, this is your craving potentially being extinguished. And now the mind's not motivated to do that thing anymore. So when you use the Eightfold Path, which includes breathing mindfulness, meditation, and generosity to eliminate your craving, desire, attachment, you can find the middle way, which is what are you really intrinsically motivated and encouraged to do, and now make wise decisions to do that. So what I'm really interested in is seeing more and more people get to enlightenment. But whether people do that or not, it's their choice. It's not up to me. I can just choose to share these teachings. But then if people choose to learn them, it's up to them to choose to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So there's work to do here. It's not going to be easy, but it's not difficult either. You need to learn more than just what I'm explaining to you here. Steve?
Oh, thank you, David. So my question, maybe a little bit of a follow-up on the previous question, is, is it possible to develop, an unhealthy craving for the idea of enlightenment? Like, I'm, like you said, I'm going to do the work, and there's a lot of work to be done here. Well, because I want to become enlightened, because my life isn't very good at the moment. Enlightened life is going to be wonderful. So I'm going to do the work. So there's the potential to develop an unhealthy craving, this end state called enlightenment. Does it make sense?
Yeah, this is possible. Somebody could form a craving, desire, attachment for enlightenment itself, the longing, yearning for it, right? But there's a middle way. there's gradually working towards it as a goal, as an objective or interest, where each day you're making steps towards it, but you're not longing, yearning for it. Because that's what the mind can do, is if it has a craving, desire, attachment for enlightenment, you'll never actually attain it. You need to have a goal, objective, or interest. You need to make wise decisions to walk towards it. Just like this, say you're climbing a mountain. It's like, hey, I'd really like to go to the top of this mountain. Well, you can get obsessed about that and push and plow and nose to the grindstone and push yourself up that mountain. But you're not going to really enjoy the journey. And you're probably not going to enjoy it when you get to the top either, because you're so exhausted. That's what craving, desire, attachment does for you. Or you could be like, hey, I'd really like to go to the top of the mountain. Let's see if I can do it. And now you just gradually make your way up the mountain and you enjoy the journey. And when you're feeling a little bit like your thighs are a little bit sore, you sit down on a log and you have a snack, you have a sip of water, you talk to your friends, and then at some point you're feeling better, you get up and continue your journey, right? So you can enjoy the journey all the way up to the top. And then when you get there, you're not utterly exhausted and tired, and you can actually enjoy the view and enjoy the fresh air. But if you walk up that mountain with craving, desire, attachment, you may not even get there. You might twist your ankle on the way and trip and fall and need to be medically evacuated from the mountain, right? So that's why craving, desire, attachment for anything at all, including enlightenment, is going to produce unwholesome results whenever you're making decisions through craving, desire, attachment. So you need to make your decisions as a goal, as an objective, as an interest, that you're gradually making your way towards something, but you don't have that burning desire. That's what the mind's used to in the unenlightened state, because that's what you've been taught. That's what the beings around you are doing. That's what maybe your mom or dad or your brothers or sisters, your colleagues are doing. They have this burning desire, this passion, pushing. But you can see people are burning out. People are stressed. People are having anxiety. You can continue to do that if you like, and even do it with enlightenment, but it's going to result in nothing but unwholesome results, because as long as you're pursuing things out of craving, you're going to experience discontentedness. You're going to get angry or sad or frustrated or agitated or annoyed or something else. So there's this better way, which is gradually work towards a goal, objective, or interest. Because if you're all the way on the other side of that craving, the mind is dull and lazy and lethargic and unmotivated and unencouraged. The unenlightened mind can usually see these two really clearly: the chasing, and then the laziness and the dullness and the boredom and all that kind of like lethargic condition. You can usually see that very clearly. But it's this middle way that the Buddha is helping you to be able to see. But you can't see it just a snap of a fingers. You need to learn it and grow and develop and easily be able to see more and more through training of the mind, to be able to get to that point where there's peace and there's joy about how you're pursuing certain objectives and interests in life. It just takes time to do that. Oh, you have a question, Alberto? Sure.
Okay. Usually in the teachings, craving, desires, and attachments are put together in the same packet, but I don't see very well the difference between the three of them, especially the distinction between cravings and desires. If you can give some examples or help me understand the difference between the three of them.
Sure. So craving, desires, wants, and expectations, these are all the same, where the mind is longing, yearning for something external. Attachment or clinging is actually a little bit different, and I usually explain this later, but I can explain it to you now. Later meaning later in your development on the path to enlightenment. So craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations is the external seeking for satisfaction, for something external, the longing, yearning. But then you have what's called attachment or clinging, where the mind's now holding on to something. Right? So let's use the boyfriend or girlfriend example. You could be at home, completely single, having painful feelings, being lonely and bored, and your mind comes up with the idea, oh, I know what I need to feel better. I want a boyfriend or girlfriend. And now the mind longs and yearns for it. It just can't wait to find somebody in the world to can be considered your boyfriend or girlfriend. So the mind's having craving, desire, wants, longing, yearning, expectations of wanting something. And the mind thinks that this external thing is going to provide lasting satisfaction. So that's the craving and desire, the longing, the yearning, the wanting and expecting. But now once you meet somebody and you start to get to know them, now the mind clings to it. Because of that craving, the longing, yearning for it, when you get it, you get the pleasant feelings, those happiness and excitement. So now the mind clings to this, wanting it to be permanent. So that's what the attachment is, where your feelings are attached to this person. If I have this person with me, I'll be happy. But when they're gone, I'm going to feel sad or I'm going to feel miserable. They go on a business trip, you might miss your partner. That missing that partner, it's not your love. That's the craving, desire, attachment. You would like to get to the point where when you're with your partner, you feel happy, you feel great. The mind is enjoying that time together. But then when they're away, you enjoy that too, right? So your partner calls you up from the business trip and they're like, hey, honey, did you miss me? You're like, no, I didn't miss you. And it's like, oh, what, don't you love me? No, I love you. I just didn't miss you, right? Because I don't have that longer yearning, that feeling of you missing somebody. That's because you're uncomfortable. The mind is dissatisfied because if it has this person, you're satisfied. And if you don't, then you feel like you miss them. That's the attachment. The mind is holding on. Your feelings are attached to this person and whether you have them in your life or not. And you would like to get liberated or free from this, where when you're with the person, you thoroughly enjoy that. And when you're away from them, you can enjoy that too. So the mind needs to be able to cultivate this wisdom to see that the missing and the longing, the yearning, the craving for something external is then going to lead to the clinging where you're holding on to this person and wanting them to be permanent. And now you're setting yourself up for discontentedness. Have a question?
How to recognize if I am just numb or avoid to make the right act.
So what's helping you with that is your mindfulness, your awareness of mind. And you're cultivating this through meditation to become aware of the mind. So that now when you see your mind longing, yearning, like say you're in the mall and you're walking through the mall and you see this brand new pair of shoes or a brand new phone or video game or something. And you're like, oh, brand new pair of shoes. Yes. Oh, I can't wait to get those on my feet. Oh, they're going to look so good. Oh, I can't wait to get them. That's your mind longing, yearning. Because there you go. There's the discontentedness. There's this excitement that's arising because of the shoes. The mind is longing, yearning for it, right? So now you're like, okay, do I need these shoes or do I want these shoes, right? Well, if you have 20 or 30 pairs of shoes at home, what's one more pair of shoes going to do, right? So you tell yourself, I don't need these shoes. I'm going to cut this off and let it go. I'm going to walk away. Right? And now you train your mind to be able to walk away in that situation. And more, you'll get to the point where you're making decisions based on wise decisions. Where when you need a pair of shoes, you'll know I need a pair of shoes. Let me go to the mall and look around, and you can calmly look for a pair of shoes and you can make a wise decision about what would be the best shoes for you in any given situation. But when you have that discontentedness in the mind, where the mind's all shaken up and unsteady and uncalm, either with conditioned pleasant feelings, painful feelings, or neither painful nor pleasant, you're not going to be able to make wise decisions. Have you guys ever been so excited you like tripped and fell? Or you're so excited you made like an unwise decision? I don't know if you guys ever had that before, but I used to have that where your mind was all shaken up, right? So you need to be able to use your mindfulness or your awareness of mind to be able to see it longing, yearning. But you're not going to have that right off the bat necessarily. That's why there's these teachings to be able to help you to cultivate the awareness of mind. Some of you guys might not even known what craving, desire, attachment was before this class, but now that you're starting to become aware of it, there's tools and techniques to be able to help you cultivate, to be able to know when your mind is craving. Because there's no harm in buying a pair of shoes or having a goal or objective. There's no harm in this, but it's when your mind is longing, yearning, and forming its inner feelings on this thing that it's going to set you up for this discontentedness.
if I keep seeing, letting go, maybe it's just make me know any feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, not the peace.
Yeah, you're not going to have conditioned feelings by the time you get to enlightenment. You'll have unconditioned mental qualities where your mind is just always happy and always joyful. So your mind's going to swing for a while as you're making your way to enlightenment, because with the mind craving, desire, attached, holding on and craving for things to be a certain way, you don't just let go of those cravings and move right to the middle. That's not what the mind does. As you're letting go of your cravings, it's going to start letting go and it's going to swing to the other side. And there's going to be times where you do feel a bit numb because you're used to having these conditioned feelings. But then you realize your mind's not in the middle there either when you're feeling numb. So now you need to be able to bring the mind closer to the middle. But once again, you're going to overshoot it and you're going to go back towards craving again. But eventually it's like a pendulum that you eventually come to the middle. By the time you get to enlightenment, you're not numb. You're just always enjoying everything that you're doing, no matter what you're doing and how it's happening. You just can enjoy it. You're joyful despite what's going on in the world. So somebody might say, well, if my mom died, how could I be joyful? Well, you're not joyful because mom died. That would be a conditioned feeling. You would be joyful despite mom dying, because the mind understands this is impermanence. I don't need to form my feelings based on whether mom's alive or whether she's dead. I don't need to form those feelings because the love is not what's causing the mind to be sorrowful or grieve in that situation. So you don't need this grief and this sorrow to live a wonderful life. You can come to the middle where your mind is peaceful and joyful and uplifted. And because oftentimes it's very challenging to understand what enlightenment is because you're not experiencing it, people will tend to think that you must feel numb if you don't have these conditioned feelings. And I can share with you, no, that's not the case. You don't have numbness. It's just that your mind's always bright, it's always radiant, it's always uplifted, that you don't have these ups and downs and ups and downs.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Okay, so now moving on to the next one. Remember, craving, desire, attachment is that longing, yearning. If the mind gets what it wants, it gets the pleasant feelings. If it doesn't get what it wants, it gets the painful ones. And it's this craving that's causing it. And one of the painful things that can happen is the mind can experience this anger, hatred, ill will, the bitterness, the hostility, the animosity, the resentment towards others. Because the mind firmly believes that it's something external that's causing you these painful feelings. So this is where you might push people away. This is called aversion, where the mind is pushing a person away or pushing a situation away. And this doesn't solve the problem because it allows the craving to continue to exist in the mind. Or you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And now you damage your relationship. I'm sure you've done that before, where the hostility and bitterness is the mind trying to fear this other person into doing things your way. The mind's trying to get those cravings fulfilled. Or the third thing you'll do is you might put your expectations on someone, trying to control them or force them to do things your way. This is once again the mind trying to get its cravings fulfilled. So as long as the mind's doing this, it can't live with all beings harmoniously. So you might find yourself in a situation where you keep having broken relationship after broken relationship after broken relationship. And if you don't understand what's actually causing these painful feelings, then you'll never actually be able to solve them. So you can get to a point where this isn't occurring, where you don't have this anger coming up in the mind, where you're wanting to push people away or push the situation away, or you're being bitter, harsh, and hostile, or you're putting your expectations on people. You can clear all that out. But the thing is that with the mind's lack of wisdom, when you're experiencing painful feelings, if you think that it's this person who's causing it, you might go down this well-worn path of anger. Maybe like the bushes are pushed back, the grass is worn out. You've been down this path many times of anger and hostility and bitterness, and you know where it leads. It leads to broken relationships and sorrow and grief and misery. That's where that path leads. So what you're doing with the teachings of the Buddha, with loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in daily life, is you're getting out your machete and you're creating a new path for yourself. You're going down this path of loving kindness. And over time, this old path of anger gets overgrown. The bushes come back, the stickers come back, the grass grows back, and you can't go down that path anymore. The mind just physically can't become angry when you uproot this pollution out of the mind, because you've now forged this new path. But it's challenging creating this new path, because you've got to get your machete out. You've got to make your way through the bushes and the stickers. So it's loving kindness meditation, where you're rewiring the mind. You're essentially rewiring it to be loving and kind towards all beings, where you have a genuine interest in seeing them all be well. And this is where there's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. You can't do loving kindness meditation once or 1 week or 1 month to completely eliminate your anger, hatred, and ill will. It's going to be gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. If you are doing loving kindness meditation regularly, you're going to slowly be wearing away this anger, hatred, and ill will. This loving kindness meditation is done differently than what we just did this morning. This morning, that was breathing mindfulness meditation. But there's another meditation, which is called loving kindness meditation. And what you're doing is you're transforming your mind. Sometimes when people are doing loving kindness meditation, they think they're trying to change other people. You can't change anyone else through your meditation. It's not possible. You can only change your own mind. So this loving kindness meditation is to uproot the anger, the bitterness, the hostility, the resentment, not only towards other people, but towards this being too. You might have negative self-talk in your mind. You might have an inner dialogue where you're degrading and diminishing this being, who you are. And you need to learn how to have love and kindness, this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, including towards this being who you are. So this loving kindness meditation is going to help you rewire the mind to be able to have that. It's like filling up your gas tank. And then you go out into the world and you practice being loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And that's where the Eightfold Path really comes in, because it's going to teach you how to do that, where you can now relate to people in a more loving and kind way, where when you have anger in your mind, you can't do that. You're hindered in being able to have harmonious relationships because this anger is coming up and you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile, trying to get those cravings fulfilled. So it's not just the meditation that's going to transform your mind away from the anger, but it's going out into the world and practicing through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, things like right speech, right action, and right livelihood, which is what the Buddha teaches in the Eightfold Path. And now you're gradually wearing away the anger and you're working more and more towards loving kindness. The Buddha gives this great analogy about wearing away anger. He talks about this digging tool, that if you have a digging tool that has a wooden handle and you're digging with this wooden tool every day you're wearing away the wood on the handle, but you don't know how much wood you're wearing away each day. But when you get to the end of this, where you've used this tool many, many times and you've worn away all the wood off the handle, you'll know when it's time to replace the handle. Each day, you won't know how much wood is being worn away from the handle, but when it's time to replace this handle, you'll know that. And the same thing is true about the anger and the hatred and the ill will. When you're doing the loving kindness meditation each day, when you're practicing loving kindness in your day-to-day life, you're not going to know how much anger and hatred you're wearing away each day. But when it's completely gone, you'll know that. Because it'll be 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, you haven't been angry or frustrated. And you'll know that it's been completely worn away. So when I grew up, I had a lot of anger and resentment towards my mom for things that happened in my childhood. And I was very angry and I wanted mom to change so badly. But then I wised up and I realized that I needed to change. So I started implementing the change within my own life, doing the loving kindness meditation and being more loving and kind with mom. So each day I was wearing away the anger and the hatred and the ill will. I didn't know how much, but when it was completely gone, I knew that. Because I wasn't angry or hateful towards mom anymore. Where in the past, where she would be angry and bitter and harsh and judgmental towards me, I would be that same thing right back to her. And it would be like fireworks went off whenever we were together. But when she started being bitter and harsh and hostile, and I would just say things like, Mom, I'm going to get off the phone and let you think about what you just said. I know in the past I've been angry with you, but I'm choosing not to do that anymore. I love you, Mom. Take care. Be well. Right? And I knew, like, whoa, I wasn't able to do that before. But now, through training my mind with loving kindness meditation and practicing the Eightfold Path, I was able to do that. And slowly but surely, Mom realized that her son was no longer angry and bitter and harsh, and she started transforming her mind. So I would go sometimes 2 months, even 6 months without talking to her. Then I would call her up again. Hey, Mom, how you doing? How things going? Just not even paying attention to what happened in the past. And then we would talk for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And then at some point she would be bitter and harsh and hostile again. And I would do the same thing. I would say, Mom, I love you so much. And I really value this relationship. I'm going to get off the phone and let you think about what you just said. And we'll talk another time, Mom. I love you. And I would get off the phone, right? So I was doing something different, so that when Mom used to pick up the rubber ball of anger and throw that around, I used to pick up that rubber ball and I would throw it around. And next thing you know, we've got all these rubber balls bouncing around because we just kept giving this ball of anger energy. But when Mom picked up the rubber ball of anger, I just watched it roll to the corner and it lost its energy and it didn't have any more energy. And she extinguished her anger on her side, so that by the time she died, there was nothing but happiness and joy in our relationship. We didn't have any bitterness or hostility. So in order for you to transform your relationships, you're going to need to first transform your own mind. And it's loving kindness meditation that's going to help you rewire that, so that then in your relationships, you can be more loving and kind and generous. And that's what's going to help you. So there's certain relationships that you have right now that you're probably going to need to just let go of and walk away from, because maybe you have too much bitterness on your side. Maybe they have too much bitterness on their side. You're not committed to the relationship, and it's better to just let go and move on. And you don't have to tell them that's what you're doing. You don't have to download all the reasons why you're choosing to walk away. You can just choose to just gradually walk away. And that's how you're going to clean up those relationships. It's just let go and move on. Then there's other relationships, like with my mom and my wife, that I needed to kind of put on pause a little bit, step away, work on my own mind. And then I was able to come back into the relationship. And now I was able to be loving and kind in these relationships. And we were able to sort those things out. But then there's a third category of relationships. These are brand new people that you've never even met yet. You don't even know what their name is right now. But when you train your mind with loving kindness and you start being loving and kind with everybody around you, you're only ever going to be loving and kind with those new relationships. And that's all you're ever going to experience back in that relationship, because you're only ever being loving and kind. So these are the 3 types of relationships. There's some that you're going to need to let go of and not cling to them. Realize that it's unhealthy for you to continue. But that's not going to solve your problem. You still need to eliminate your cravings, desires, attachments. But nonetheless, letting go in this relationship is the best way to clean that up. Then there's going to be relationships you need to put on pause and step away from, work on your own mind, and then maybe you'll come back into the relationship and now you'll be able to be more loving and kind. And then there's that third category of brand new people that you don't even know who they are right now. You'll only ever be loving and kind, and now that's all you'll experience back. So this is the way you eliminate anger, hatred, and ill will, is really targeted with the loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in day-to-day life. Do you guys have any questions on this one? Let me check online. Let's see. Okay, I don't see any questions here. Okay, so the whole reason why all of this is occurring is this next one. It's called ignorance, or I like to refer to it as the unknowing of true reality, because that word ignorance is derogatory and diminishing and degrading, and that's not the way an enlightened being or a Buddha would speak. Instead, what this is the lack of wisdom, the unknowing of true reality, the confusion, the misunderstanding. Because the mind doesn't understand what it doesn't understand, it continues to crave and it continues to have anger. That because the mind firmly believes that other people are causing you to be angry and frustrated, you'll continue to stay in this cycle. But when you arise wisdom here, which is the antidote, that's what's going to solve all of this. As long as the mind holds on to its current false beliefs, it will continue to stay stuck over and over and over and over again. So you need to arise wisdom. And the way you get to wisdom is by learning, investigating, and examining, by reflecting to independently verify whether something is true or false. And then you practice integrating the tools and techniques into your day-to-day life. You're going to need to arise wisdom about these things the three universal truths, the four noble truths, the eightfold path, the five precepts, the Brahma Viharas, which these are four healthy mental states that you need to cultivate in the mind, the natural law of Gotama, the seven factors of enlightenment. You're going to need extensive meditation training. You're going to need to understand the 10 fetters. But these are all things that you can easily learn because all the resources are available for you for free. You can get the books, the videos, the podcasts, the classes, the courses, the retreats. You can get personal guidance with me. It's all available to you at no cost. You can learn these things and all the others that you need in order to gradually make your way to acquiring this wisdom where you can now understand what's truly affecting your mind. Because I know that you've been in arguments before where you've probably been adamantly trying to convince people that they need to stop doing what they're doing because it's them that's causing you to be angry. I'm sure you've probably been in those situations, but it wasn't them that was causing you to be angry. They could have very easily been doing something that's unwise, right? But what's causing your mind to be angry is that you were craving and expecting for them to do it a certain way. And that's why the anger arose. But this was coming from the mind's ignorance or the unknowing of true reality, where it was thinking that something external was causing your inner feelings. So when you arise wisdom about the entire path, then you can implement this path, gradually training your mind, getting to the point where you eradicate craving and anger. But it starts with eradicating the ignorance by cultivation of wisdom. So while we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, it's really because of the ignorance or the unknowing of true reality that the cravings and anger continues to exist in the mind. If you didn't have the ignorance, you wouldn't have the craving and the anger. Any questions on this? Yes, ma'am.
When someone
Sounds like your mic went out. Is it back on? It's on now.
When someone give us a hard time or being harsh on us, do we need to communicate? Just walking away? Because
Han's helping you out with another mic. That mic is impermanent. It's not permanent.
Because I think every relationship will have a conflict, and especially for the intimate relationship, I didn't mean to argue with them or fight with them, but do we need to talk and communicate instead of just saying like, oh, I'll leave you alone?
You need to talk and communicate in your relationships, but when your communication becomes you wanting that person to do things a certain way, that's the craving, desire, attachment. So if you're sitting down with somebody to talk, it wouldn't be to say, you need to do it this way and not this way and this way and that way, because now you're just trying to teach the people around you to do things your way. So people aren't really giving you a hard time. What they're doing is they're just doing things opposite than what you would do it as. Your mind is expecting them to do it a certain way. They didn't do it that way. And now your mind's angry or frustrated because of it. And you're not going to solve your problem by teaching them to do things your way, because there's 8 billion people in the world. And you need to understand that some people do it this way, some people do it this way, some people do it this way, some people do it that way. And it's not that your way is the right way and everyone else is the wrong way. It's just a different way. It's just impermanence. It's just different. But in certain relationships, like you mentioned, an intimate relationship, this is typically a life partner. There are times where you might sit down and you might talk about things and discuss things where you can support them and help them in their journey, but it's them that's doing the work. So like my wife, she has this thing where she doesn't consult with me and my son about anything. If she would like to do something to the house or something around the house, she just does it. There's times where I've woken up at 8 or 9 a.m. in the morning and there's drills and saws and people in our house doing construction, and I wake up and I stumble into the room like, what's going on here? And it's like, oh, I'm hanging up my yoga sling in the room so I can do flying yoga. And I was like, oh, did you think that we should talk about that? No, it doesn't involve you. It's my yoga sling. I'm going to be, slinging around and doing the flying yoga. I was like, okay, we'll talk about this later. I just go to sleep, right? And wake back up. And then this is a common thing that she does where she just gives away stuff. She does things on her own. So this is unwise to do these kinds of things. If you're living with someone, it's wise to kind of talk with them and give them a heads up about the things that you're thinking about doing because you would like to share this home with them. So in these situations, I'm not angry. I'm not frustrated. I'm not agitated, but I sit down with my wife and I discuss with her, does she think it would be wise to consult with me or my son when she's doing these kinds of things so that we all can kind of come to an agreement about these things? And there's times where she's like, no, I don't think I need to do that. And we just talk about it. And over multiple years, she's come to realize that it's wise for her to maybe have a conversation with us before she does these things. But even still, the other day, like we realized she like gave away my son's camping equipment. She just gave it away to somebody. So she still does things differently than what we would do things. But that doesn't mean she's right or wrong. It's just different. And we've learned that this is the way mom is, and we will talk to her and, discuss it with her, but we're not doing it in an angry way or a frustrated way. Now, in terms of an intimate relationship, if you're having sex with somebody, there's an attachment there for sure. Because the mind is wanting pleasant feelings and this sexual contact is producing that pleasant feeling. In fact, the height of a sexual relationship would be like an orgasm, right? That's conditional pleasant feelings where the mind has gotten to this heightened state of pleasurable feelings and conditioned feelings. And now the mind wants something from this person. If you look back to your relationships that you've had, when you first got to know somebody, like the first couple of dates, if you guys weren't having sex yet, you can see that everything was so wonderful because you didn't have expectations of them and they didn't have expectations of you. And you guys were having lots of enjoyment. But when you guys started having sex, that's when the cravings, desires, attachments come in. And now you start wanting and expecting things from them and they start wanting and expecting things from you. So once there's intimate contact, this is where the cravings, desires, attachments really start flooding into the relationship and have an opportunity to cause a lot of difficulties. So it's not that there's anything wrong with sex. You can have sex if that's what you would like to have, but just understand that there is going to be craving there. You are sometimes going to get sex and the mind's going to be happy and excited about that. Other times you're not going to be able to get it. Or if you do get it, it's not going to be as satisfying as you wanted it to be. And now the mind's going to be irritated or frustrated or agitated. So in a relationship where there isn't any sex, that's less ability for the mind to be attached. But in these situations, you will have attachment in a sexual relationship. By the time you get to enlightenment, you will have completely eliminated all sexual contact. It's not something that you have to do right now or anybody's going to force you to do. It's up to you on your journey. You can actually get to the second stage of enlightenment and you'd still be having sexual contact. But by the time you're moving into the third stage, which ultimately the fourth stage of enlightenment is where the mind is actually enlightened, an individual wouldn't be having any sexual contact because they would have already been able to see that there's conditional feelings, that when the body is pleased in a certain way, you get these pleasant feelings. And when you can't get that, you're going to get agitated or frustrated or annoyed. So if you guys can think back to times where you've been sexually active, you maybe were having a lot of pleasurable feelings. But then when you went a long period of time without sex, you might have been disgruntled or agitated or annoyed. This is because of the craving for sex. So as long as you have a craving for sex in your mind, you're not going to actually be able to experience the permanent peace and the permanent joy. So what oftentimes people do, particularly if they're younger, is they'll get to that second stage of enlightenment. They'll do all the work that they need to do. In that second stage of enlightenment, you'll have a lot of peace and a lot of joy. You'll have a very wonderful life. But then at some point, you might decide to move beyond that. And that's where you'll start valuing the peace and the joy that you experience more so than the sexual relationship. And maybe your partner is in the same place with that. Oftentimes, it's hard for us to imagine that there's something better in the world than sex. But there is. It's called enlightenment. but the mind doesn't understand what that is yet. So it doesn't understand that there's something actually better. So as you're knocking down your cravings, desires, attachments, you might still be having a certain amount of sex, but you're going to start noticing more and more peace and more joy coming into the mind, and you'll start valuing that and appreciating that more than the sex, because the sex is a temporary thing. For a few hours or a few days, you might feel pleasant feelings, but then it wears off, and your mind ends up right back into the agitation and frustration. But you'll go periods of time, maybe like a month or 2 or 3, where you're experiencing all this peace and joy, and then you'll end up having sex, and then you'll be disgruntled and agitated for a few weeks afterwards, or maybe even a month or so. And you're like, wow, I'd like to get back to that peace that I was having for that 2 or 3 months. And now you start making your way back to that by not having sex anymore. And now you'll really appreciate that more and more. So this sexual relationship, it's going to produce discontentedness, but that might be where somebody is at a particular stage of their life, and they're just going to kind of hang out there for a while and do all the other work that they need to do before they actually make their way to completely eliminating that. But there is craving involved in sexual activity. Any other questions? Yeah, Gary?
Some clarification with the craving.
It's still on.
Hello?
Yep, it's still on.
Yep. So you said craving is born of ignorance at one point. And I was thinking that craving is just like a fundamental property of living beings. Like everything craves. The moment we wake up, we have cravings, for food, shelter, everything. And the same with all animals and things that surround us. So, is craving something that needs to be eliminated? Or is it, does it come from ignorance, or is it just something that's built into living things?
So craving, desire, attachment is not something that all beings have. All unenlightened beings do have that, but enlightened beings don't have craving, desire, attachment. The things that you were mentioning about food and shelter and things like this, these are needs that one has in order to survive, but oftentimes the mind is craving for these things. So if you're craving a piece of chocolate cake and you're longing, yearning for it, and if you get it, you get happy, but if you don't get it, you feel sad, that's a craving, desire, attachment. That's not a need. What you need food. You can survive with apples and oranges or broccoli or cauliflower. You can survive with that, but the mind wants this piece of chocolate cake, and it can only be happy if it gets the piece of chocolate cake. So oftentimes people do crave food, but it doesn't have to be a craving. You can just wisely choose to eat certain foods in order to sustain the health of the body, but the mind needs to be trained to be able to do that. So not every being has cravings, desires, attachments, and it does come from the lack of wisdom, the ignorance or unknowing of true reality. If the mind understood what craving, desire, attachment is, and if the mind understood how it's complicating your life and making it difficult for you, and if the mind understood the wisdom of how to eradicate it, that's what you would do. Because once you see really clearly that craving, desire, attachment, what it is, and the difficulties that it's creating in your life, and you learn the wisdom of how to eliminate it, you'll be pleased to get rid of it, because it's just complicating things in your life. The mind in the unenlightened state, that's what it does. It craves, it longs, it yearns. Yeah, when you wake up, you might have cravings that instantly click in, but that's not what's going to lead to your ultimate peace and your joy. An enlightened being doesn't function that way. When they wake up in the morning, it's just like, wonderful. It's a new morning, right? You just have a smile on your face right from the beginning. But you don't have cravings, desires, attachments, but you do have goals and objectives and interests that you're going to work towards that day, of things that you're going to accomplish. But you don't form your feelings on whether you accomplish those things or not. Because for an unenlightened being, you have a long list of things, and if you accomplish them all, you'll feel great. But if you don't, you'll feel miserable. You'll feel tired and exhausted. So what you're describing is what you currently understand and what you currently think. But that in and of itself is the ignorance, is the unknowing of true reality, because the mind doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. The more you come to understand what craving is, how it's complicating your life, and how to eradicate it, you would make the choice to eliminate it. No other questions? Okay. I don't see any questions online either. Okay, so what I'll do here is just end by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for being interested to learn the path to enlightenment. As you guys would like to learn more, you're more than welcome to come back and learn more. I have classes here on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays at 9 a.m. I also teach at 9 p.m. online. I do it from home, so I live stream it. So if you can't attend the class that I teach at 9 a.m., you can always attend the 9 p.m., no matter what time zone you're in or where you're traveling to. On Wednesday, I'm going to be here teaching meditation, or at least doing meditation and opening up to any and all questions that you guys have. And then, of course, on Saturday and Sunday next week, we have our Pali Canon and English study group and the group learning program. Next week, I'm going to be in chapter 9, which is titled, What is Gama and How Does It Affect Me? This is going in and talking about this natural law in detail. And then also on Sunday next week at 3 p.m., I'm going to be starting a week-long retreat where it's the developing a life practice to attain the first stage of enlightenment. I'm going to be teaching everything that you need in order to be able to get to the first stage of enlightenment, all in one retreat. So you can see that on our board over here, on the bulletin board. It has information where you can see exactly what I'm going to be teaching. And it's also on our website, and you can attend if you'd like. It's available at no cost. We're going to be meeting from Sunday all the way to Friday, and we're going to be here, and we're going to have excursions and learning and growing and developing. You can attend here at the temple, or you can attend through the live stream, because I live stream it. And if you can't attend the live classes, it's recorded, so you can attend it that way as well. So thank you again for coming. Thank you for your questions. And as you guys would like to learn more, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help you. Be well and have a lovely rest of your day. Take care. Sawadee Kap. Sawadee Kap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.